Alright YouTube, I bought this car just a few weeks ago, and I've been trying to finish up other projects to allow the time to start working on this, because I'm super excited to bring this car back to life and make a whole series on restoring it. It's going to be my first restoration, so I wanted to bring you guys along and make a series of videos of the whole process, kind of because I'm sure I'm going to get humbled pretty quickly and learn a lot as I go. So I found this car at a garage sale. It's a 1958 Edsel Corsair, and it was last registered in 1968, so it has been off the road for quite a long time. A little bit of the story behind it is it was the guy's first car, and this is what he bought when he was 16. Growing up, his neighbor bought it brand new, his dad bought it off of his neighbor, and then supposedly he bought it off his dad, and drove it for a few years, and then in a barn it sat. He did tell me that it was since 1968 it was started up and moved a few times as they moved from house to house, but the very last time that they went to move it they couldn't get it started, and so it was towed. So we'll do a quick walk around, kind of look at the condition of everything and see what we have to work with. If you're not too familiar with Edsels, I highly recommend going and watching the two videos that I'm going to link in the description. There's a ton of history behind them, and it's really cool to know the full story about why they really failed as a car. They weren't made for very long. So I highly recommend you go and watch the two videos that I'm going to link in the description to learn a little bit more about the Edsel itself and that line. So I want to share a little of the story of how the Edsel came into my possession. Like I said, I found it at a garage sale, and I just kind of saw it peeking out of the barn. And at the time, I had no idea what an Edsel even was. So I took these photos as well as the owner's phone number, and I went home and did some research before I reached back out. Once I kind of saw the history and the story behind the Edsel as well as how rare they were, I knew I just had to have it. So we fast forward to the very next day. Here we are trying to pull it out of the barn and get it on my trailer. So when I bought the car, it was sitting on 4 flat tires and just about sitting on the frame on the ground. But I brought a little air compressor with me, and luckily all 4 tires held air long enough to roll it onto the trailer. And the car rolled pretty easily, so that helped out a lot. Getting the back end of the car onto the trailer was not very difficult, but once we hit the middle, it kind of high centered on the frame, and my little electric winch couldn't pull it any farther. We tried pushing it, putting some boards under the tires, but what ended up working is we hooked a second pickup truck up to it with a tow strap and just pulled it the rest of the way, and that ended up getting the job done. Alright, so here's a photo of me and Mike, the Edsel's original owner, and then a photo of us pulling out, headed to the Edsel's new home. Once we got to the shop, we gave it a quick power wash and tried to get all that dirt and grime that's been building up on the car off to really see what we had to work with. Once the car was semi-clean for now, we hooked it up to the four-wheeler and pushed it into the shop so that we could throw it up on the lift and get under it and really see what we had to work with and where we wanted to start with the car. So we'll start with the hood. What's under the hood, my favorite part. Alright, so while the motor is dirty and rusty and old, don't let it fool you. This motor is actually one of the reasons why I chose to buy this car. This is the MEL, Mercury Edsel Lincoln, is what that stands for, E475, and it is a 410 cubic inch or 6.7 liter V8 that makes 345 horsepower. And this boat of a car with this engine was said to run a 7.4 0 to 60 in 1958 when it was made. So while I know absolutely nothing about the MEL motors, I was pretty intrigued by a V8 of that size, and I was pretty excited to get my hands on it. Just to give you guys a look at the health of the inside of the motor, on the motor oil side, while it's dark, it is still very oily, so that made me pretty happy for the motor. If we take a look at the trans fluid, while it's a little bit clearer than I'm used to, it's still very clean looking, and I'll take it. So if we pop this air cleaner off, you can see we've got a 4-barrel carb. It's a Holly. Looks like it has seen better days, but I'm sure we can clean it apart and get it going again. Make our way around this side. We've got absolutely nothing inside the radiator, which was kind of to be expected. This car does have power steering, which I thought was really cool for this age. We are missing the belt for that currently. It was outfitted with a glass jar for the windshield washer fluid, which is kind of cool. And then the battery will sit right over there. So this is the under the hood of the car. Pretty excited to start getting it cleaned up. I'm probably gonna pull the valve covers off and just see what we're working with. But let's move on to the interior. So we'll start with just a quick walk around of the car. All of the molding, you can see we're missing the hood ornament there. There used to be a Corsair badge right here. I believe all this stuff is in the car, which is nice. We're missing a windshield wiper, but all the glass is solid, which is really good because I really do not want to find out how hard it is to find replacement glass for this front and back window. The trunk, luckily I do have the key for it. Just a bunch of goodies there. We have our jack and some other odds and ends. No spare tire, but that's where that used to go. I will need some taillights, which I have not started looking for those because I'm a long way out from needing that yet. But we have some damaged taillights. All the chrome, we'll see when we actually get to it, but I just did a couple quick tests and actually shined up pretty good, so that's exciting. The gas cap underneath the license plate, it's got matching 1968 plates, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm sure you noticed it right off the bat, just like I did, but it's got a couple of really concerning rust spots. Both front fenders are completely gone, and that's partly due to a design flaw. If we look inside of there, I don't know if you can see my hand wiggling, but all the road debris goes right up into there, and it's got nowhere to go. It just sits right up on top. So both of the front fenders are completely gone, just like that. And I have found some used ones off of parts cars, so when we get to that we will look more into finding a parts car for it, but for now I'm not too concerned with that. I'd rather get it running, driving, and then focus on body work. The next semi-bad area is the hood. That is going to be a lot easier to fix if we have to make our own panels than the fenders, but it is still pretty gone. And then lastly, around the rear wheels are pretty gone as well. You can see right behind that back door is pretty trashed, and then the entire bottom of that back fender is gone. So this is on both sides, right around the wheels, pretty gone. So all the doors move and feel super solid, so that's a plus. Inside is, for the most part, in decent shape. All the interior is surprisingly nice. We do have a couple friends in here that have seen better days. So seats are all pretty decent. I was really excited to see these hubcaps, the matching copper metallic color hubcaps with the E in the middle. And then, you know, the back of the seats all look pretty good. Doors, like I said, open smoothly. Up in the front, there's one concerning area, and that is right in the corner there. So we'll go take a better look, but it just looks like either mice or insects or something got into the wood under the leather dash or the vinyl dash. But another really cool thing about this car that intrigued me was the teletouch transmission. If you watch those videos that I was talking about earlier, it'll explain the teletouch a little bit, but I'm really excited to dig into that and try to get that working again. But essentially, it is a transmission that was only used on a couple Edsels and a couple Mercuries, I believe, or Lincolns. And then the teletouch control system, which is just the electronic control system instead of having a physical shifter, that was specific to Edsel Corsairs and Citations as far as I found online. So I thought that was pretty cool. Around the steering wheel here we have the horn, the rotating globe-like speedometer is really cool, and then the rest of the dashes are pretty standard. The one all the way on the right is the blower motor controls, so that's how you control where the blower goes. And then everything else is pretty standard. We have an AM only radio, a spare radio for some reason, the rim to the spare tire, and some other odd and end parts. So you can see here there is quite a bit of damage here. Obviously some kind of animal or insect moved all of that out, or else it would not be piled up like that. Alright, so here we are. When I bought this car, it had 4 flat tires and the frame was just about sitting in the sand inside of a barn, but still I had no idea of the condition of the frame, and that was a little nerve-wracking, but I was pleasantly surprised. I haven't found a single soft area of the frame. We can see quite a bit of surface rust, but actually up front, probably due to some oil leaks from the motor, where it looks like the factory undercoating, it actually looks pretty decent. So that was really nice to see, and that goes all the way back for the frame. It's all very solid. You can really see the condition of the back fenders from under here. Fuel tank, also pretty solid. When it comes to the floor, the worst area is right here. You can see that has had some better days, but that is really it. On the same side over here, it's starting to go as well, but the rest of it is all still painted and for the most part solid with no holes. So I was really happy to see that. Looking at the axle, once I bought it and started rolling it around, it started leaking some fluid, so I guess that is good. If it leaks fluid, it has fluid. Once I got it on the trailer, I did notice that the drive shaft was tie wired up, which concerned me a little bit, but I found the reasoning for that, and we'll look at that in just a second. So, taking a look at the transmission here, you can see just a standard looking transmission. I forget the name for it right now, but then on the side of it, we have this. Let me get my flashlight out for you guys. That is what is specific to this car. That is the teletouch system. So you can see we have a normal linkage right here on the side, and then that electrical motor that actually controls the linkage. They weren't really sized correctly and the motor wasn't strong enough, so literally from dealerships I read online that brand new car buyers would be warned that if they are parking on a hill, they need to set their parking brake first and then put it in park, because this motor is not strong enough to get the transmission out of gear if it has a load on it. Right, so we noticed how the drive shaft was zip tied up, probably from when they went to tow this and couldn't get it into neutral. And I did find pretty quickly that this wire harness right here is torn up, probably from the mice that are dead in the cab. So I followed that, and that goes directly to the teletouch controls. So I think the very first thing I'm gonna do is connect those back together. Luckily they're all color coded. All right, so I just want to make a quick video about how I'm going about this. Any of the wires that, let me find a good example. You can see this green one here had some damage on it. This was the end of the wire up here, had some damage down a little bit farther. So I'm cutting them back and then just splicing in a little bit, because the last thing I want is to not have a long enough wire. Luckily, which helped me out a lot, is all of these had plugs on the end. We had a couple like this. One of them ended up breaking, but I was able to unplug them and then pull them underneath this brake booster here and get some more room. So, like this yellow one, we look at it, it's got a brake right there. The rest of it seems solid, so I'm just going to cut it right there. Take it over and measure out a piece of wire, be a little generous with it. Then we'll Splice that back a little bit. Splice that back a little bit. And then I've got some flux, just in the ends of the wire in the flux. I like to just stick the wires together and then give them a good twist. And I know technically I should be using a soldering iron, but I have always just liked using a little butane torch like this. It melts the rubber coating a little bit on the wire, but we're gonna put a shrink tubing over that anyways. All right, so now I got 1/2 of all the wires all repaired. I'm gonna take some shrink tubing and cut this in half. So I can do 2 of them. And then all I'm gonna do is slide it down, cover up the connection there, and then carefully just shrink it into place. And just like that. I'm pretty happy with that connection. So I'm gonna go ahead and do all the shrink tubing on the rest of them, and then we'll start putting the connectors back on the wires. All right, so before we go ahead and start doing the rest of them, on these ones we have to put the shrink tubing on first. So I'm just gonna go do all of them right now, because I know if I don't, I will forget. We are all good, so now we're gonna just start connecting the correct colors. So if we start with this plug, we'll start with a gray with a blue stripe. Look right here. Down at the bottom of that, we have gray with a blue stripe. Put the wire back. Put the wire back. And just like last time, I already did a quick look, but I'm just gonna make sure that the rest of this wire is all sound. And actually, if we look at the very end of that, is starting to get green and corrode a little bit. So I'm just gonna cut this back just a little bit. Alright, we just got some flux on it. Make sure we have the right one. Stick it on there. Twist it around. And then we'll try to get it propped up there. I've got a little clamp that I could grab if I can't get them to prop up there correctly. And there you go. So I'm just gonna go through, do all of them like that, and then we'll plug it in and test it out and hope for the best. All right, so I got them all hooked back up. You can see they used to have electrical tape around them, so I'm gonna go ahead and tape them back up. It's not pretty, but it is better than it was. Alright, I think that'll do. So we'll just carefully look under here. And then I've got some dielectric grease, and just to help prolong this a little bit more. Alright, so now all of those wires are now reconnected, and it all went pretty good. Now before I even lift the car up, and we'll actually try to put it into neutral, and then I'm going to throw a battery in it, and I just want to get in it and hit the button and see if I can hear anything happening. heard something happen. Alright, I don't know if you can hear that, but that connected everything and it is making noises now. Alright guys, so I'm going to do a quick demo. Right now I want to show that the transmission is in neutral. We can spin that drive shaft easily. If we spin, then we will get a view at the shifting mechanism. So this is the trans shifting arm right here. That's the motor to it. I'm gonna hop up top and I'm gonna put it in park, and then we'll come down here and try to spin the drive shaft again. And hopefully you saw that move. And if we come here and spin the drive shaft again, we'll see that's now locked in park. With the battery in it, I thought it'd be cool to do a quick walk around and see the lights and everything. So we got headlights right now. We come in here, flip that up. Now we should just have parking lights. We got them on this side, that side's burnt out. We'll go around the back, see if we got tail lights. Got tail lights, we got a license plate light. And we'll hop inside and see what we got going on in there. All right, and inside we got our courtesy light. Shuts off when we shut the door. We got our tunes going. And then you can see our trans controls. We'll try neutral again. Pretty cool. Our horn. Pretty cool. What else do we got? Let's see if our blower works. Our blower does something. Alright, our windshield wipers don't work. Oh, that's cool. We can turn our courtesy lights on. Alright guys, and the last thing that I would like to do for this video is I'm just going to help prepare myself for getting the motor unstuck. Not being running for this many years, there's a really good chance that the rings and pistons are kind of seized in place. And I haven't actually put a wrench on it yet, but you can see there the belt, like it is just stretching the belt and it will not spin easily. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the spark plugs out and just dump a 50-50 mix of acetone and ATF transmission fluid and let that sit for a little while before we actually put a wrench onto the crank pulley and try to get the motor to spin. Alright, so I've got a little mixing cup, an empty oil jug, some ATF, and some acetone. So we're just gonna get some mixed up in here. We'll do, let's say 600 milliliters of each one. $500 milliliters. Throw the cap on this. That sucker was in there. Look at that. Alright, I got the first one out and it actually broke the ceramic. It was super stuck, but I realized there's a lot of gunk down in there, so I'm going to thread this one back in and then just take my compressed air and blow everything out so that I don't risk getting any debris down in there. If I can get this back in with how short it is. There we go. Alright, that should help out quite a bit on avoiding getting anything down in there. Alright, so I've got those pour out. I'm going to grab my acetone ATF mixture. A little sneak funnel down into there. Yummy. This back one's going to be kind of difficult because I can't see where the hole is. So these spark plugs are pretty bad. I'm not going to worry about actually reusing them, but I don't want any foreign debris getting up in there. So I'm just going to put it back into the hole a couple threads just to protect everything. So I'm going to use this breaker bar just to get them started. I've never had to use a breaker bar to get spark plugs out before. And then we'll blow all these off real quick. Jesus Christ. There's one. exact same thing. I'm just gonna get these threads started again, just so I don't have to worry about any debris getting in there. Alright, and I'm just going to let those sit for at least most of today, probably give it a good 6 hours or so, and honestly if I don't get it today it might sit for a couple days. We'll let that work its magic, and then when we come back what we're going to do is probably take the belt off and see if we can get a breaker bar onto the crank pulley and start trying to get the motor to turn over. I think that's going to wrap up my first video. I'm about out of time tonight. But I'll try to get this posted soon, and let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you want to see, if you have any questions about them, and we'll keep going from there. So my next operation is going to be trying to get the motor running. We'll get it started and see if we can get this thing moving.